If you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, what is happening? If you have felt disgusted by the aging process, trust me, you're not alone. This podcast is for the fierce women who want to feel powerful, sexy, and beautiful in their own skin. You deserve to look in that mirror and feel proud of what you see, not filled with self-doubt. Welcome to Your Unapologetic Life, the podcast with your host, me, Morgan Barkus. I also have a 90-day coaching program specifically designed for women like you who are ready to ditch the negative self-talk and step into their unapologetic selves. If you are ready to stop feeling stuck in that mindset and want to feel happy, light, and free, then I'm the coach for you. For now, settle in. Let's get ready to redefine what it means to live unapologetically. And hey, if you want to take the first steps towards that transformation, head over to morganbarkus.com and schedule a call with me to see if we're a good fit for my coaching program. Let's get into this episode. Fantastic. All right. Amy DeGrossa is an accomplished educator, transpersonal life coach, and certified clinical hypnotherapist, which I can't wait to hear about, with a wealth of experience in personal healing and transformation, a Reiki master, and an associate professor of Spanish. Girl, I could use you. I need to learn Spanish ASAP. Amy is also a proud mother of 4 amazing adult children. Her journey into spirituality has profoundly impacted her life, guiding her to embrace and explore meditation, mindfulness, breath work, dream work. I also want to hear more about that. Sound healing, subtle energy, embodiment practices, and metaphysics. Through her own healing journey, Amy has experienced a spiritual awakening that has been both life-changing and heart-opening. As a life coach, she empowers her clients to live intentionally and authentically, supporting those navigating transformational phases in their lives, including relationships, careers, family, and spiritual growth. Amy specializes in heart-centered transpersonal coaching, helping clients identify their strengths and create possibilities and adopt intentional living practices. You can connect with her on her website. We'll talk about that near the end of the podcast. And she also has her own podcast, which I love the name, Into the Heart, Finding Wisdom Within. Thank you so much for being here. That was a lot, so we're going to break it down together. I want to hear more about your story because that's a fancy way of saying everything you do. And I would love for you to break it down a little bit more with your story, wherever you want to start.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Morgan, for having me on your show. I'm very excited to be here and share this space, and what a wonderful opportunity it is to be in your presence. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And wow, where to begin? It's always a pause, right? To think about where does one's journey begin. I think, I guess to begin with, I will start from the fact that as a young child, I moved around a lot. And so I have geographically relocated quite a bit in my lifetime. And one of the main geographic relocations occurred when my family decided to move to Spain after my parents' divorce when I was very young. And so I grew up in Madrid. And it is one of the greatest gifts that I think I've received in this lifetime, because as a result, of course, I'm bilingual and I grew up there, and my children speak the language too. And so it's been a real extraordinary opportunity, and one that has afforded me the ability professionally also to teach at a university. So I really do enjoy that very much. So a part of my identity is really wrapped up in my experience of growing up overseas and then moving back to the United States to complete my education. So I moved back here to finish up university and completed a master's degree, and then went on to create a family and raised with my husband 4 children. And along the way, many opportunities for growth have come along. And
such is life, right, Amy?
Such is life, yes. So there have been, we could call them challenges or we could call them opportunities. And I have a penchant for really reframing things and looking for what have I learned from the experience. That's really important to me. I think I'm a lifelong learner, both as a teacher, as a student, and I have not only do I teach Spanish, but I have also been a student of some of the modalities that you have shared in my introduction. So I've been a student and a teacher of metaphysics, for example. I study subtle energy. I study a lot of different things. And truly, it really informs me of the world around me, and it helps me to understand how I am connected and how we're all all interconnected. Um, I think some years ago, probably after my children grew up and we started stepping into empty nesting, that's sort of when my journey of redefining who I am really changed. It has really changed my life. Being a mom of four children, I used to call our household organized chaos, right? There's a lot of needs that need to be met when you're raising kids, um, and I will say that being a mom is probably my greatest badge of honor. So I do love being a mom, and I also uh, very graciously accept the many roles and hats that has afforded me, and sort of the passage into adulthood, if you will, into womanhood, into finding out who I really am as a human, as a soul, and beyond, not just in a role, if you will. So that's really, in a nutshell, I guess, what navigated me to get to this place where my spiritual awakening began once my children started leaving. I think my identity was really wrapped around my role as a mom. And when they started leaving, and I started recognizing, what am I going to do with my life, and who am I really, so that led me into a spiritual pursuit, journey, interest. And it started really at the School of Metaphysics, and that sort of opened my mind in ways that I had never been exposed to before. And so I learned a lot about universal laws. I learned about meditation and concentration. And I just, it was such a profound shift in my awareness. And it led to many other things. And it really was maybe the doorway that I walked through in order to discover who I am.
I'd like to go back for a hot second. When you were a kiddo, I feel like some kids really, I feel like I would have been the kid where if my parents said, we're moving, I'd be like, great, where are we going? I didn't, I don't have a lot of attachment to things. I mean, there are certain things I care about. Um, and I'm really flexible in that way. And I can be a nomad and a gypsy almost pretty comfortably.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling my brother wouldn't have been that kid. He'd be like, no, all my friends are here, whatever it is. I just feel like certain people, what was it like for you? Because certain people have like just preferences and how they are and their character, not even character, their personality, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And
Yeah.
I'm just like a free spirit who wants to see everything and do everything. And yeah, I want to try that. And other people are more like, no, I like my comforts. I like my routine. I like being stable. And I feel like some kids grow up being resentful that they move so much. And others, it seems like you've expressed that it was awesome for you. So can you say a little bit more about that and advice for whether how that's translated to adulthood and having to kind of go with the flow or be able to change and pivot and be open to change?
Hmm. What a beautiful question. Yes, and even though I was very young, I was 6 years old when we moved overseas. But before that, I had moved several times, even here in the United States. So, initially when I was very little, it was an upheaval because you didn't really get rooted anywhere. It was like just when you started to get used to something, your parents were moving somewhere else, and so I do remember that feeling a little bit. Um, mm, I'm going to say unclear as a child. Like, where are we going now? What's happening? And eventually, by the time I was 9, that's when we arrived in Spain. Before that, I had lived in Belgium, I had lived in Louisiana, in Florida, in New York. We had moved around quite a bit. And I will tell you that by the time we moved to Spain, I didn't speak any Spanish. When we lived in Belgium, I didn't speak any French either. And my mom placed us in both French and Spanish speaking schools. So I had the added challenge of not being able to communicate with people. So initially, it was challenging, and however, I was living with my grandparents, and my grandmother was an extraordinary storyteller, and she really made it sort of like this amazing world that we were having the privilege of living in. And so I had both. I both had nurturance and support from my grandmother, and I also had to overcome a lot of fear as a young kid of, going to school, not being able to communicate, not being able to express my needs. My mom says, particularly in Spain, I think it was several months into school that I started, finding my voice and being able to express things. However, I do remember making a lot of mistakes while I was learning the language and being made fun of, because kids do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that part was not fun. However, uh, for me, one of the really sweet parts of this is I made some very close friends and wound up going from the fourth grade all the way through high school with the same group of students, same group of friends. And so we knew each other, pretty well. And I'm still in touch with my very first Spanish friend ever. We still keep in touch, which is very special to me.
That's magical. I love
Yes,
that.
it really is. And out of those maybe challenging early days of growing up in a foreign country and not being able to communicate, I learned a lot about being resilient. I learned about flexibility. I learned about how things change, and it's okay. We will be okay even when there's big changes. I learned that lesson as a very young person.
I want to go back to your grandmother too, because when you said that, something
Mhm.
flashed in my head. I have a marriage and family therapy background. So for me, I sometimes have the therapy hat on.
Yeah.
And as you said that, I thought, what a beautiful gift your grandmother taught you without you probably even realizing how you story things.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm thinking about that even in my own life, I could say, oh, I'm always like this or I'm like that. And it's like, that's the story I'm telling myself, or everything we experience in this life, we get to story it,
Yeah.
or we get stories passed down to us. And then when we're grown adults, we can go, that story, I don't really like how that's storied. Let me restory that. And I'm thinking of someone I talked to not too long ago, and she said something, and she's like, well, that's how it is when you grow up in the Midwest. And I said, who says though? Who
Mhm.
wrote that story? You are 57 years old. You can write any story you want about that same thing.
Mhm.
And she's like, huh, I really think, because I think your grandmother, that's such a cool thing that she did, because you could walk around and go, this sucks. And I'm all alone and I'm isolated and I'm in
Mhm.
this strange place and people are making fun of me. This is the worst life I could have. Or why did my parents put me in this situation? And she created it so it became exciting for you, or an
Exciting.
adventure. I'm thinking one of my favorite lines is the movie Up, the Pixar movie, when the
Mhm.
little girl, she's like, adventure is out there, and she's just so excited about everything and just
Yeah.
believes in anything, that
Yeah.
everything is possible. And it's really truly how you choose to write the story of your life experiences, or how you're seeing things happen around you. Your grandma
Mhm.
was brilliant.
Yes, she really was. We were very close, and I have a just enormous, heartfelt gratitude for her. I think about it all the time. I just recently, last summer, took a group of students to Spain on a study abroad program, and part of that was walking the Camino in Santiago, and it was a week long walk. We walked about 150 kilometers, and it was an extraordinary experience. But I had a very clear moment of being with my grandmother along the way. I had stopped at a little chapel. As I was walking by, I heard people singing, and they were singing in English. So I recognized that there was a group of people that must have been, traveling together. And I paused just long enough to be moved and touched by these people just spilling out of this little bitty chapel on the Camino, singing and in joy and unity. And as the song ebbed, I heard someone inside recite an Irish prayer that was the prayer that I wrote on my grandmother's little card, her prayer card, when she passed away. And in that moment, just tears just streamed down my face because I was like, oh my God, she's here. She's with me. You know,
Wow.
she's walking this with me. And
Hmm.
so it was really special. It's very special when you have these extraordinary mentors in our lives. And I have been extremely blessed along my path to run into just the right people at the right time if you're paying attention.
Yeah,
So
that's
she was
awesome.
definitely one of them. Yeah. One of my
That's
little
really,
angels.
yeah. And she was right with you going, my brave girl.
Yeah.
Look at her with it, helping all these, bringing these kids on this trip, and what a cool experience.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. I also wanted to say kudos to you for being a mom. I think
Mhm.
being a parent in general is the hardest job that you're
Yeah.
given in this life. I really do. And a mom in particular. There's a special thing about being a mom,
Exactly.
and it's the most difficult job that you choose to do in this life, and that you love it so much. And out of curiosity, now that your kids are grown, I mean, they were raised by a free spirited, very intelligent mom who is very good at a lot of things. You know, what do they think about hypnotherapy and
Mhm.
sound healing and all the things that you're, because you know, like, in a way, when I talk to you, I think some people are good at one thing and they're really, really good. It seems like your brain and your spirit has the capacity to be really good at a lot of things, that, and
Mhm.
they're all related but different. And so it's just you seem to have a very robust capacity. So I'm very curious about how that's influenced your kids or what they think about all of that.
Well, thank you. You know what? It is, I am passionately curious about people. And I am somebody who not only is, I feel like I'm a connector, like a bridge with people. I love people's company. Now, I also enjoy my own solitude at times for meditational purposes and things like that to reset, recharge, but I do get a lot of energy from being around curious folks, including my kids. My kids have kind of taught this. This is something that I share with my children. Um, and I think I could say that they find it fascinating that I'm interested in all these different modalities, and they ask me questions about it. My youngest, in particular, is very very curious about a lot of the things that I study, and we have lots of conversations. But not just with her. I talk about what I do with all of them,
Hmm.
and you know their choice in life, the paths that they have taken. Some of them knew what they wanted to do when they were very young and have pursued that. I have a daughter that's a doctor. She's known that for a very long time, and that's what she does. And I have another daughter who has tried many things. I have another one who's an artist. I have a son who's in finance. They're all living out their dream because I got that message very early on that you can do anything that you set your mind to. And there's the only obstacles that we have are really our own thoughts about it. And so when you have people like my grandmother who believed in me from a very young, and my grandpa, and they were just encouraging me to do things, it sets you free to go explore and do things. And I think my
Hmm.
husband and I have been able to give that to our kids as well, which has been a true gift for them to be able to just go study what they wanted to study and become the human beings that they are. They're really, I'm partial, but they're exceptional human beings, and in their own right. And it's something I'm very proud of.
Sure.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, the hypnotherapy stuff, I have to take you back to
Yeah.
when I went to college,
Mhm.
and they're doing an orientation. I'm nervous. I don't know anybody. I transferred as a junior. So I'm like over at this orientation where all the freshmen are. So I'm like older, but I'm still new, like all of them, to this whole thing called college. And there was this entertainer who was a hypno I don't know, what would you call that? Like a hypno.
Hypnotist.
There you go.
That's a
And
different thing.
is
Yes.
it okay? Because
Yeah.
what was funny, one of my best friends to this day, she is from Morocco originally, and
Mhm.
had lived in the States to finish high school and then college, and now lives in Morocco again. And we stay in touch. And I just remember, I didn't know her at the time. I just
Mhm.
thought she was so courageous. When the hypnotist said, "Hey, we got so many volunteers," where she raised her hand, she went up there, and I watched these people do things that I
Mm.
was like, wow, there is no way they're voluntarily doing these things, you know? And so I
Mhm.
was like, this stuff really works.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was just something funny that I remember from my first time away going to school, and that this stuff like actually it worked. So that of course is like the pop culture hypnotist is a fun, entertaining, almost like a magician kind of thing. How is hypnotherapy different? Um, and why are you drawn to it? And maybe someone that you've worked with that really it worked just phenomenally with, and like what was the
Mhm.
shift? What was the big transformation?
Yeah, it's a very powerful modality. Hypnotherapy, it comes out of a therapeutic setting, so it has a lot of science behind it and research. It is different from the traditional pop culture idea of a hypnotist, in that it isn't the power of suggestion just to control somebody's mind, which is what a lot of people think hypnotherapy is. It is not that at all. It actually is a modality which allows a client to receive a healing through a deep sense of relaxation. It starts with a relaxation protocol where you relax the mind and the body into a completely deep state of relaxation. And from there, you follow a series of prompts that allow the client to connect with, it's like a bridge that they form with their subconscious mind. It is almost like you're not asleep, you're completely conscious during the whole thing, but it's almost being able to access that dream state, if you will, of our mind by creating this relaxed state. And so there are different protocols. It's used for a lot of different reasons. Um, for example, I used it to quit smoking. Um,
And it
it's
worked?
it worked. It worked.
Now, is this something I'm thinking about YouTube, because you can find everything on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I'm like 5 minute morning gratitude prayer. Boom. Or I meditation, found a bunch of them, picked one,
Yeah.
did a 5 minute morning gratitude meditation. Is this something that you would not want to try at home, if you will? Like you should have a professional. You shouldn't be listening to some video on YouTube.
I would definitely recommend going to a professional to do a session. First of all, there is a specific protocol to it, and also it's used in a therapeutic setting, and usually it's for you to uncover old wounding or trauma. It could be a gateway to or a bridge to uncover something that is even hidden subconsciously. So it's I think I would most definitely recommend doing the process with a professional for sure. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And the benefits of it are life changing. I was the recipient of a protocol of hypnotherapy as part of a process that I signed up for, and I was going through a difficult time. It was during this time of redefining my identity and trying to figure out who I was, and tapping into old beliefs that I had that I didn't even know that I was still operating from. For example, worthiness or um, stay small, don't speak your mind, unconscious thought forms that were showing up in patterns in different relationships in my life, and I wasn't really in tune with them. So it was like a way to take a layer, go a little bit deeper into my experience to uncover some of these old beliefs. And
Hmm.
the hypno process guides you not only to discover when those thought forms originally maybe crystallized in your experience, and oftentimes it's in childhood, right? For example, you might have been made fun of in school because you couldn't pronounce something. And that could have been a sense of unworthiness, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not doing this right. So by me accessing that, and the therapist would guide me through that experience so that I could emote and, if you will, connect to the physical and the emotional components of that experience so that I could see the medicine in it by understanding that I'm no longer that little girl. I'm an adult, and I can really resource that little wounded part of myself by creating a new belief system around that specific event.
That's what I was going to ask you, because it's one thing to go, oh, okay, that's where that came from,
Mhm.
and then how to restore it, or because I'm thinking about what's crazy to me. Not crazy. I mean, I have a tattoo in my own handwriting that says "I am enough," so it's not crazy to me. I did a podcast called "You Are Enough,"
Mhm.
and out the gate, that was the heaviest hitter of all my other podcasts. So, I mean, if you read down and you're like, I'm going to listen to this one. And I just thought, isn't that interesting? Because I also had a video that wasn't my podcast. It was just some random video I shot, I don't even know how long ago, on my YouTube channel. And it was called You Are Enough, or something to that effect. And those are the biggest hitters. It seems like people are searching that. And I just think, God, so many of us are walking around feeling like we're not enough. And it's bananas,
Yeah.
because we're not enough for who, for what, for, but we feel that way. And
It's
so
a
how do you find out where it came from, and then how do you change it? That's what you're saying. Like
yes,
you just thought, I am not that little girl anymore, I'm not in that situation anymore, I have control now. Like, do you have,
yes.
like, how
It
you would
is
work
a
with someone?
Yeah. I mean, it is literally a process that you walk somebody through where you help them create new belief systems.
Mm.
If can you see that now in your life today, you're not that little one, and can you see, is that still true for you? Well, no, it's not really true that I'm not worthy. And so, what affirmation would you like to? How do you want to restory this, reframe this in a positive way? And so a client will come out with something like, I'm worthy, I'm lovable. And you get to experience that in your physiology.
Hmm.
And and then you can, write down the affirmations, repeat the affirmations. Affirmations can be very powerful. However, they only work if you are aware of why you believe it and if you actually believe the new belief, right? So there has to be a context, and there has to be an understanding of what it is that you're believing about yourself, and being open to changing that.
Mm-hmm. Say more about that. Because one thing that I really do believe in are the positive affirmations. And I read a book. My mom and I were diehard Oprah fans. So every day, summer, winter, fall, we were always watching Oprah. And
Yeah.
so I remember specifically, we had a routine in the summer, my mom and I. We would do all our chores in the first half of the day. Then we would catch the news up until the weather. And then we would I lived in the country, and we lived on a river. And so we would go sit by the river on the dock, sitting by
Mhm.
the dock on the bay. And we would talk about life and
Mhm.
everything, relationships, love, it was just everything. And then we would go in at Oprah time, and usually we would read a lot of her book recommendations. That's how we found, like, Don Miguel Ruiz, and mom found Gary Zukav, and but Louise Hay was one of them.
Yes.
And I got the book, You Can Heal Your Life.
Yes.
And when I went to college in particular, I mean, we're just programmed to think negative. I mean, unfortunately, that's us.
Yes.
And I thought, I need to reprogram. And so I practiced positive affirmations. And even though I didn't believe them,
Mhm.
I started to, because I had a negative narrative constantly rolling through. And then as I practiced over and over and over positive, even though I was like, well, I don't feel amazing, but I'm going to write this 20 times, or whatever it was, I did some kind of positive.
Sure.
My brain started to not automatically go to negative. It was rewiring for positive. And then I started to feel. So
Yeah.
I did start to, like, fake it till you make it. So can you say more about the positive affirmations?
I love that, and that is, it is sort of the end product of what would happen in a hypnotherapy session,
Mm,
arriving at it in a little slightly different way. In other words, we tap in directly to a trauma, a wound that is in that's stored cellularly, physiologically in our bodies, and we access that and we allow it to play out, so it's embodied, so you actually guide the person through um, allowing expression. So if there's anger connected to it, then there's a process to help them release the anger. If there's shame, so all kinds of different emotions that come up, the emotions are sort of the bridge to understanding what is the belief that's connected to the emotions,
mm,
because that's how we react. Think about when you get triggered. You first feel something, you sense something, fear or joy
anxiety.
or, anxiety. Something usually comes up that will provoke or trigger a response. And sometimes it's a physiological response before we even have words for it. And that's because it's stored in the body. And
Mm,
Louise Hayes talks about this. It's precisely this stored information that is emotionally unprocessed information that gets in the body, that stays there until you tap back into it and find ways to release it.
mm.
So with the hypnotherapy, you get to physiologically and emotionally and psychologically release it, create these new thought forms. I also love Louise Hay's mirror work. She has a book on mirror work, and it involves first thing in the morning for 21 days. You actually go talk to yourself in the mirror and just love on yourself and create all these a positive narrative with yourself, because we can be really hypercritical about a lot of different things, and if we're not receiving that information from outside of us, we certainly have the choice to be able to nurture ourselves and guide ourselves to think positively about ourselves. And I really do believe that it works. And I mean, you say it, I know it. I've seen it, and I have experienced it at such a profound level of healing for myself that I went and got certified so that I could assist other therapists at their sessions with other people. And I did that for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. And it just was such a sacred way of serving others. It really touched me on so many levels.
When you say serving others, I hear you. It's been in my heart my whole life, like just serving people. It's this. I always loved customer service because it's serving people in a way. Even sales sometimes is serving people in a way. But the coaching to me is,
Yeah.
yeah. I would like to talk about sound therapy too, and because I always tell people if you're in a mood, put on music. I've noticed, and even I was home for Christmas this last year, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden Christmas music was on, and my mom came down the hall singing, and just everything changes when music is on.
Yes.
And if I am doing a workout and I go to the weight room and I may or may not be feeling it, and I'm going to go do my workout, and once a good song comes on and I start dancing, and pretty soon I'm leaving the gym and I'm still dancing, and now the music's turned up on the car ride home. Sound, like, how does that, I mean, music, yes, we love music. We use it for many things,
Mhm.
in many ways, movies and parties and whatever it is. Talk to me more about how it's used therapeutically, or not music, but sound.
Sound. Another beautiful question. So I have been, once again, the recipient of sound healing, and it has led me to learn how to play the djembe. It has learned, I also
What is a
taught
djembe?
a
What is
djembe. It's an African drum,
Oh, okay, okay.
a West African drum. Yes. So, and music has a way, it's not only healing, it can transport you to another dimension. It's like a soul connection for me. There's just something beyond the physical, that it just represents this deepening of that sense of connected to something greater than myself. And listening to music, I also listen to music, but I often like music that doesn't have words. And it shifts something in me to be able to connect to the sound, the quality of the sound.
Mm-hmm.
I also have an embodiment practice where we use sound as a means to connect to the inner workings of how expressions and emotions and experiences can be expressed. So, listening to music, and I know that you're a dancer and you'll really appreciate this, but embodiment practice allows you to really put into movement the sound with through your own body
Mm-hmm.
and moving that energy. We're all made out of energy, right? Moving the energy is a very healing experience. I've been to sound baths, crystal bowls, and Tibetan bowls, and we have an extraordinary practitioner here that I love to go to her center, not only to receive the sound bathing elements, but also I have taken classes with her to learn how to play and tuning forks, and because they can use for heal, you can use them for different healing modalities for pain in the body, joint pain. um, so there's quite a lot of instruments that can be used in the process of sound healing. So
Very cool. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about EDM music because I'm a huge fan of EDM music. And there are times where when the beat drops, I get goosebumps. I start crying. Like I'm very like there are some people I feel like music is amazing. Lyrics are amazing, the beats are amazing. I feel like there's two people. There's the folks that really love the lyrics and
mhm,
they love to read it and they're analyzing the lyrics and they're like I'm more of an EDM gal because I don't even care about it's the
right.
feeling. And I remember as a kid, I was like a teenager, and my parents had taken my brother and I on a family trip. We went to New Mexico and Arizona. We saw the Great Canyon, all the Grand Canyon, and then we went to Santa Fe. My parents love Santa Fe, and we were in this shop, and there was a gentleman was making a drum
Mm,
for a deaf person,
wow.
and the person was like putting his hand on the drum and listening, feeling. Yes. And so they were designing this drum specifically for this person who couldn't hear in the conventional way and needed to feel it.
Mhm,
And I thought, well, that's so cool. And so then I just wonder if different folks, different strokes for different folks, uh, different people like different kinds of music or drawn. Like some people love singer songwriters, some people love bluegrass. I love EDM to the point where it's like gives me goosebumps and makes me cry kind of thing where it's like, oh my God, I feel it inside my body like it's in my soul. So I think I just wonder how and why different people are really drawn to different kinds of sound. Does that make
yeah.
sense? Do I sound
It
crazy?
does. No, it doesn't, not at all. And I think energetically, we're all energetic beings, and a sound moves through us.
Mm,
And if we are connected to um, the sense of our beating heart, for example, it's rhythm.
yeah.
Sound is it's part of the beat of life, and I think most importantly, especially for me with the drums, for me it's connected to the heart.
Mm.
I feel the cadence of it, the rhythm of it, the sacredness of sound.
And it's like deep inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
life, basically.
Right. Right.
Now, you've raised kiddos, you've done a lot of things.
Mhm.
As I feel like sometimes women think as they age, they like need to wind down or like they don't have the capacity or they don't have the time to go and do new things or make big changes or have a big impact. Talk to me about I mean, I feel like you're just coming alive again. Like you're just like reinventing and reinventing. And I feel like that oftentimes too. I think,
Mhm.
wow, like I've moved a lot and I've loved it. I've been like one of your kiddos that's had a lot of different careers. I'm always bouncing around like a butterfly. And it's exciting to me. Like, I don't ever want to just stay in one place for a long time because I want to go and try and do and see, because I feel like we only do have so much time. So
That's
what
right.
do you when folks feel stuck, or they're like, well, I'm kind of, past my prime or whatever it is, or they're kind of feeling like age kind of makes us invisible and nobody cares about us anymore. I feel like sometimes that's the messaging, and I just think,
Mm,
why? To who? Like, you can do and be anything you want at any age. Like, it's only
yes.
you stopping yourself. Like, talk to me
Mhm.
about how you work with people and keep them staying alive no matter how much older they get.
Well, I would say I love this, and I so am aligned exactly right where you are, because I too believe that the only thing that holds us back from moving forward can, in my mind, is the thoughts that we have about it, the story that we tell ourselves. And so I help my clients to reframe, to reclaim a narrative, to think about what are they thinking about, what are the belief systems, what are the thought systems that they have around their capacity to try new things, and where does that messaging come from, and does it still hold true, and if not, what's possible. So, envisioning is a technique that I use in my coaching, and it's actually part of the hypno process. Instead of going backwards, we kind of go forwards. And so it allows people to kind of tangibly feel into what they want to create in their lives. And while they may not be able to put words to it, if I just point blank ask them, if we relax the body and the mind and we take them into a light trance so that they can just tap into an inner knowing, we are all wired for uh, the answers that we need to guide us. And I feel that I, what I am most excited to do with my clients is to just help guide them back to themselves, back into their hearts, back into their own experience. Because if they have trust in themselves and they believe in themselves, they will be able to access extraordinary possibilities. So I think it's a mindset. I really do. I believe that, we can live reactive to life, or we can be responsive to life. And I learned that later in life, frankly. I learned that in the School of Metaphysics, and I was a grown woman. It's not something I've known all my life, but rather remembered later in life. And I think when I am responding to the experiences that are happening to me externally, I'm more aligned with my true self than I am if I'm reacting. If I'm reacting, I'm usually coming from a place of fear, a place of uncertainty, doubt, um, or being hurt, and all of those are valid experiences. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that we should only live, in peaceful, loving states. That's not realistic. I think we have an enormous capacity for experiencing everything in life. And to stay true to ourselves sometimes requires really looking deep, and sometimes we find things we don't really like. We don't want to look at some of the things that come up, right? Shadow work is another component that comes up in it's that's related to the hypnotherapy process, and being able to see the ways in which we might harm ourselves or others. And it's like subversive. It's like we don't even realize we're doing it until either we see it in somebody else and we're like, wow, that really pisses me off. And then you're like, wait a minute, where does that live in me? Because why am I being so triggered by that person's behavior? And it may not be exactly the same, but there's some quality of what's happening. And that's why I'm reacting that way instead of responding with, wow, that person must be really hurt. That's a response to somebody else's experience. And so learning to distinguish between responsiveness and reactiveness, I think is a real gift, and important for all of us to know that we have that, and it's available to all of us.
I really like that you said that about the reactivity. When
Mhm.
and this is ourselves, where we're analyzing ourselves. I was reactive once at a gas station. Um,
Yeah.
I got really annoyed. It was cold outside, and I'm not a pleasant person if I'm cold, and
Mhm.
I just feel real tense and uncomfortable. And so I was always annoyed at this gas station. It was always out of paper. So when I wanted a receipt, it wouldn't come out. And I thought, well, now I got to go inside and it's cold and it's windy and all these things. And I walked in and I was like, can I get my receipt, please?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, can you get a different attitude, please? And I was like, you're right. So like I was like, I'm tired, I'm cold, I'm annoyed, and I thought, wow, he was right. And I also, so I reflected on myself and I'm like, you're right. I'm sorry about that. That's on me. And then also when other people react, instead of taking it personally, I can go, wait a second. This person had a big response.
Yes.
What could this be about? Rather than me thinking the worst or feeling hurt, I can go, wait a second.
Yeah.
This could be fear. This could be, like you said, ambiguity. Nobody likes ambiguity. So I really like that you said that. That was a really good thing for people to think about with themselves and their reactivity. And then when someone else gets reactive.
And to add to what you're saying, and I really like the example that you gave. It's a perfect example, because what we come to, if we're paying attention to ourselves, like you were, and you were able to get there immediately and recognize, wow, yeah, this isn't who I want to show up as. This isn't who I am, and I know it. And
I was embarrassed.
and you could respond. You responded right away. That's the perfect example of the difference between reactiveness. You had both. You reacted first and then you responded. You came around really, really fast. I love that. I just, along the same lines of this, I want to share something that I learned along the way of reactivity and being reactive to who other people are being and how they're showing up. And one of my coaches taught me that who another person is being and how they show up is just information about them. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. All of a sudden, it was like, this isn't personal. And there's a difference between receiving something as personal and understanding this is someone else's experience. And that was a huge awakening for me. I had a very, very, very close friend, very dear friend, and we just came to a point in our relationship where some things, some hard truths came to be. And it was one of these aha moments that I had, that the most loving thing that I could do for this friend was to let go. Because I was being pushed into being something that wasn't aligned with who I felt I was. And I was expected to be a certain thing for someone else. And I realized in that moment, wait a minute, this isn't my journey. This is about this person who needs to figure this out. I need to get out of the way. And I'll tell you, it was a really painful experience losing a close friend. And yet I derive so much learning from that in so many other circumstances in my life. And it allows me to set healthy boundaries with other people.
I was actually, as you were talking, I was thinking with social media too, I find that even women in you think, oh, kids, of course, they're susceptible to being influenced by, for me, when my age, we didn't have internet. So it was 17 magazine and Teen Bop or whatever. And we didn't have cable, so whatever movies I was watching.
Sure.
And now there's just a bombardment of so many other people's lives in your face. And even at 40s, 50s, 60s, there's still that influence. Like you're saying, setting boundaries. I just think, do you ever work with people on how for them to let go of what they feel like they should be? I should look like this. I should be doing this. And why am I not handling that as well as this person seems to be handling it? Like, do you run into people that you work with that are working through that stuff?
Absolutely. Yes. And I think it's sort of the same process. It's really getting to know yourself. When we operate from an inside out perspective, worried about what other people are going to think of me, worried about how society thinks I should behave, worried about compliance or not questioning or setting healthy boundaries with ourselves, we lose ourselves. We lose one of our key ingredients of empowerment, which is having a voice and having our own particular uniqueness and showing up in that. And I really do believe that letting go of expectations is part of it too, because we grow up with a lot of expectations. We have a lot of cultural, societal, political, I mean, you name it. There's all kinds of different expectations, certain ways that we're supposed to be behaving, right? And other people who want to glom on to, well, you're not doing this right. And, I'm doing it my way. And I I think that I want my clients to know they can do it their way too. And that just because they have a set of circumstances that they grow up with, that they can reframe that and coming back to, owning your own story or rewriting your own story. One of my favorite questions, Morgan, is what would love say? And I like sharing that with everybody because it puts us in a different frame of mind. It allows us to go to a deeper place of, am I really behaving in a way that I want to behave? And or am I doing things because I'm trying to keep up with other people, or because I need to please somebody, or because I have to conform with others? Or can I respond from a place of love? And that means loving myself in the process, not putting myself aside. So,
Boundaries. I'm thinking right now as you're talking about, it's maybe a silly example. I listen to this podcast called Smartless, and it's three comedians, Jason Bateman and Sean Hayes and Will Arnett. And Will was saying his ex-wife is Amy Poehler, who's also a comedian.
okay.
And he said he loves that Amy has very clear boundaries when people come up to her, especially if she's with her children or dropping them off at school or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And people be like, oh my God, can I get an autograph or can I get a picture? And she'll say, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because some people say no is a complete sentence. And I think when it's you're scrolling on the Instagram or you see things,
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't add value to me, it's a no, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's an unfollow or just block or what, like any kind of negative comments, any thing that comes across my way. And I'm like, this doesn't feel like a full body yes. It's a no, thank you.
Right.
And it's not, I don't need any other explanation. I don't need to say anything else. It's just a no, thank you.
Yes.
So now I've started, that's like one of my favorite boundaries because it's
I
like,
love it.
it's not mean. It's just, no, thank
It's
you.
honest. It's honest. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's right. It's very direct.
Yes, that's
And,
true.
and I think some people are, they try to, well, I don't want another person to feel bad. So now I'm going to try to explain it, or I'm going to, it's like just less is more.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling it, I don't care if it's someone asks you out and you're like, no, thank you. You come across something that doesn't make you feel good. No, thank you. It's
Yes.
just, it's easy.
It is easy. I love it.
Now, I have a question about the work you do.
Yeah.
With the sound stuff and the hypnotherapy in particular, are these things, because now we're living in a virtual world and a lot of things are online, you're able to work with, how do you work with folks in a virtual world? How are you taking them through stuff like that? Some of the practices.
Yes, it is possible to do it virtually. And I've done embodiment practices and hypno practices and even Reiki. I've done all of those different things remotely or virtually.
Very
And
cool. Reiki too? How do you do that?
there's a protocol for doing remote Reiki.
That is so, everything. I'll tell you what, ever since the pandemic, I do feel like there's been a drastic shift. Like a lot of like telehealth and like there's, and I have a friend who's a therapist, and years ago, I was like, girl, you could do this virtually. Just have people pay you on PayPal or Square or whatever. And now, and then she was like almost forced to do it during the time we were not able to be out and about. And now it's like, I love that it's become, it's so, because before it was like, can you really be geographically independent? And that's something that one of my highest desires, to be honest, Amy, like that is, freedom is my number one desire in life. And so I love that this world can be as remote as it is.
Yes. Well, it's accessible.
Yes. And convenient.
It's convenient.
I don't have to find parking. I don't have to.
You don't have to drive anywhere.
No, it's really, and it to me in a therapeutic setting too. Because I've seen therapists in a conventional sense, where I've gone to an office, and to be honest, the first 15 minutes or more, it's just getting comfortable in a physical space that you just arrived in. Whereas if I'm in the car and I stop and I have a quick session. I've done virtual therapy 2 different times.
Mhm.
And then I also worked with a coach when I was in a professional sense because I was doing a career transition.
Yeah.
And all of those were virtual and I felt way more comfortable and I got
Yes.
comfortable more quick. I felt like I opened up quicker.
Mhm.
I don't know, and maybe that's just me, and I'm not exactly a shy person, so it was just I don't know, I think the virtual, there's a lot of advantages, and if you're doing some of the trauma work and stuff, it is really good to I have a very good friend as a therapist, and there is something to be said about being in person and being able to,
Absolutely.
kind of hold physical space with someone who's dealing with some really heavy stuff. So I there's advantages to both. But anyway, I was curious how your practices translate virtually.
Yes. Yeah. They both virtually and in person, they work.
Very cool. Well, I think you should be healing the world. So can you tell people where to find and follow you?
Yes, thank you. So people can email me at amy@pathways-to-purpose-coaching.com or check out my website, pathways-to-purpose-coaching.com. I also have an Instagram handle. It is Pathways to Purpose Life Coach. So follow me there. And I have a podcast, Into the Heart, Finding Wisdom Within. And
Love
I
that.
really look forward to, to welcoming anybody to come and listen. And I can't wait to have you as a guest on my podcast.
Thank you. And then do you have a specific package or program, or is there anything that folks their ears will perk up if you let them know some of your offerings?
Yes, right now I'm in the process of it's with the a person who is creating. I have a package that to a gift for folks, and it's a workbook, a reflection journaling workbook, and also a heart centered meditation. And I'm having it uploaded to my website, and it should be available in the next couple of weeks. So that's coming soon.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah,
And that's a free the free offer?
it's free. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So please look out for that in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, you can find that information on my website.
You know what would be so cool as you're talking, I'm thinking because you and I are part of the Divine Living Academy with Gina DeVee,
Yes.
and the amount of amazing women. And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we all, and it would be hard to decide who, because I feel like, you got a gal who works with women, helping them get out of toxic relationships. You got you're doing Reiki and sound treatment and do some hypnotherapy. And would it be cool to have a retreat? And
Yeah.
it's just like 4 days. And you're like, you got this girl over here doing Reiki and you're doing hypnotherapy. And I'm over here, talking about confidence and we're doing some dancing. And I just feel like
Mhm.
it's not impossible, and it'd be like, how do we get all these amazing women? Because everyone has so many wonderful things to offer the world. It's like you go to a buffet and you're like, everything's great. How do I only have so much capacity in my tummy?
Yes.
I really feel like I've connected with so many women that I'm like, man, everybody's really, and I also notice a pattern, and I with myself too.
Mhm.
You experience a major shift, and it
Mhm.
hits you in a certain kind of way. And then you're like, I need to share this with everyone, and that's how
Yes.
I felt about that's why for me, the body confidence stuff, it's like I struggled for so many years and I went to so many therapists and nutritionists and this, that, and the other, and read so many books. And I was like, doesn't just someone have an answer for me? And then when I finally created my own answer, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
now I got to share this with everyone, And so yeah, I just feel like it's it it's awesome how many women experience something, a really big shift in their life, and they're just so amazed by it and grateful for the experience, and then they just want to go and like we talked about, serve, and it's
Yeah.
just
I'm sure.
anyway, I'm very, very glad we crossed paths. You are just like a magical unicorn. And
So are you. And
I
I
appreciate you being here.
I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Your Unapologetic Life. Thank you so much for joining me today and for being part of this empowering journey. Remember, you don't have to feel disgusted or out of control when looking in the mirror anymore. You can feel powerful, proud, and truly beautiful. If you're ready to change and step into your unapologetic self, I invite you to visit my website, morganbarkus.com, to schedule a call with me. We can chat and see if the 90-day coaching program is the perfect fit for you. Together, we can move you from feeling stuck to feeling empowered and radiant, from out of control to in your power. Don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast with your fabulous friends, and join me next time for more insights on living your best unapologetic life. Until then, keep shining bright, girl.